I don't think it has really caused too much of an economic impact. The places where there was significant violence after the film became viral were places that were not receiving heavy investment from Western countries to begin with. So I don't think that there's going to be any significant economic issue there.
Do I think if it has any impact on the Middle East economically? Well, I remember the Danish cartoon that came out a few years ago, and there was a huge boycott against all Danish products. So economically, in that context, yes, there is a risk of that happening again. There is a sense of anti-foreign sentiments there, and they could boycott it. They could actually choose not to. So that could have some sort of detriment on their foreign policies, yes.
The point of censorship is to silence voices, and the risk of censorship is that it is a way that the majority can silence or abuse the minority.
Do I think censorship should play an important role in cultural sensitivity? Yes, to some extent, because censorship does ensure some sort of regulation in terms of content that's being mass distributed to the audience, to the mass public. But also censorship does often restrict the amount of expression or how the public is able to voice itself or to express itself.
By censoring, people not only shut themselves off to other ideas, but almost make it seem like they're afraid of those ideas. And when you've got something that is true, you don't need to be afraid of any ideas.
Do I think censorship should play an important role in cultural issues? Yes, to some extent, because censorship does actually maintain order, and it does filter out mundane information from important one. And it does have it adds a sort of regulation to the whole process. And if we were to leave it to ourselves, we wouldn't know what's fact from fiction, I guess.
As to whether people have the right to censor media that's culturally offensive, I would say absolutely they have the right to, because people form countries, and countries have a right to determine their own laws.
It depends in which country or which culture we're talking about, because as a journalist, for example, you have to be very, very careful about the laws of the country, but it's not just the laws, you also have to be careful when it comes to the ethical side of things, because what could be completely acceptable, completely normal in one country or one culture could be totally unacceptable and totally culturally insensitive in another culture.
Now, from the question of it being the right thing, I would say no. I have never been in favor of censorship. While this movie was offensive and it was created under false pretenses.
As a journalist, I think that you should be culturally aware of your surroundings. For example, I'm from Australia, but working in Dubai, it's completely different to working in Australia. Yes, you still have to make sure that you don't defame anybody, that you're culturally sensitive about the surroundings around yourself. However, for example, if you post a picture of somebody kissing on the cheek here, it could be considered softcore pornography, whereas in Australia, it's something completely normal.
People are often offended because it makes a mockery of their lifestyle. Anything that has to do with culture, with tradition, with religion is a part of their identity making. It's part of how they value themselves or how they make meaning of who they are. And by mocking it, it takes away that value.
I think that personally, people should have freedom of speech as long as it doesn't negatively impact on somebody else or another culture or another person or institute or whatever. I think censorship shouldn't be too extreme.